Well, we did it. 50,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and all I can say is a huge thank you. So many of you watching right now have been here with me since my early days on YouTube, and so many more of you have been so supportive of just about everything I've done on my channel. And I understand and I appreciate that it's because of you that I get to create content. While I never try to be all about numbers, 50,000 subscribers has always been the threshold to me where it would feel legit. And I'm very proud of every single subscriber I've gained throughout this journey. And just to put it into context for you a little bit, that's 309 videos, 8 million views, adding up to a total of 1.1 million hours of total watch time, which actually equates to 126 years, which is quite mind-boggling to me. I'm so honored that you tune in week after week to see what I'm doing or saying about my travels. So to properly say thank you, I'm going to do something that people have asked me for just about as long as I've been on the platform. That is to tell you more about me. Who is Zach the Traveling Man? Well, I've been collecting user-submitted questions on my Instagram and Facebook platforms. If you're not already following me over on Instagram and Facebook, why not? Now is the perfect time to do that. I think this will be fun, and I hope that you enjoy getting to know me a bit better. So without further ado, let's get right into these questions, all of these questions that you have submitted. Question number one is, how did you get into cruise vlogging? And there were a couple of questions kind of related to this. What inspired you to become a travel vlogger? How did you get into this career? What prompted you to pursue cruise travel info as a career? And then why cruising? Well, I went on my first cruise about 25 years ago with my parents. They took my sister and I on a cruise on the Carnival Tropical. It was at the time the oldest Carnival ship in its fleet. It does not exist anymore. It was a rust bucket when we went on it, but I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. I was very young. I was a child at that time, but I made friends on that cruise and just had a really great time. Then as an adult, I caught the cruise bug. During the times when I wasn't on a cruise, I would actually watch several cruise vloggers at home. I'm not going to name any names here, but several that still are creating content today. I would watch their content while I wasn't on my own cruise, and it just inspired me, and I figured that it was something that I could do. Actually, the first cruise vlog that I did was in 2020, right before the shutdown because of the pandemic. I went on Carnival Sensation on one of her very last sailings, it ended up being. So that was actually the very first cruise vlog series that I did on my channel, was the Carnival Sensation in early 2020. It just really caught on. People started watching, people started commenting. I didn't really think it would ever go anywhere, but I found an audience, and here you are, and I thank you for that. The next question is, how did you come up with the name Zach the Traveling Man? Well, I will say, Zach the Traveling Man was not the original name of this channel. The original name, some of you might know, was something very wild. It was called Adventures in Coriolis. And Coriolis is just such a specific word. A lot of people don't know what it is, what it means. And I would be on cruises, and people would see me with my camera and say, what's your YouTube channel? And I would say Adventures in Coriolis, and they were like, cool. And I would think, well, they're never going to find me because they don't know what I just said. So I wanted something more descriptive of the content that I was creating here on the platform. So of course, Zach the Traveling Man, that's very descriptive of what my videos are. But there's also a Dolly Parton influence in there. I'm a big fan of Dolly Parton. I've been inspired, being originally from East Tennessee, by Dolly Parton in my life, growing up going to Dollywood. And so The Traveling Man is actually a Dolly Parton song, an older Dolly Parton song. So the next question is, what did you do before vlogging? Well, I had a lot more free time, I'll tell you that. But seriously, there were quite a few questions about this very topic. People want to know what I did before I started being on YouTube. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a bit. But let's go right on to the next question. First, what's the most challenging part of your job? And I'm assuming this means of being a YouTuber. And I think the most challenging part is managing my own expectations, because I spend so much time planning, thinking of what I'm going to create, creating it, filming, editing, just for videos not to perform as I might expect. Because of course, with anything that you really put your heart and soul in, you think, oh, this is great, people are really going to relate to this, and then you put it out and it doesn't do as well as what you might think. So just managing my own expectations. I will say that YouTube is not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of hard work. I put a lot into every video that I produce. I'm quite critical of myself, and I'm hard on myself, so I want every video to look just perfect. I'm not going to just put out stuff for the sake of putting stuff out. I want it to look really good for you, because I do appreciate the time that you put into watching and consuming the content that I create. So I want it to be good. I want it to be something meaningful and enjoyable to you. So that's probably the hardest part of the job. Is just managing my expectations and being kinder to myself. The next question is, what's the goal in the next 1 to 2 years? I, of course, want to continue to grow my audience. I want to develop a larger community. Like I said, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. Folks comment on all my travels and I post behind the scenes stuff. So I feel like I know a lot of you through chats that we have on messages and DMs and things. I feel like I know a lot of the people that watch my videos. So I hope that we grow that over the next 1 to 2 years. I also want to focus more on destinations, maybe go to some places I've never been before. Certainly that's something I've done in recent years here on the channel, but I want to continue that because there's so much of the world that I've yet to see. So I want to show you that on the channel as I go. I also want to focus on newer ships and some cruise lines that I've not sailed on before. Give you a hint and a highlight of some of that because I'm going to be going on my first Holland America cruise in 2026. A lot of folks have been asking me to do that, and I've certainly wanted to, but I've just not made it a priority. So that's the first cruise I've booked for 2026. I'm going to go Holland America. I'm also going to go back to Alaska because that's something I've wanted to do. But in the next few months here on the channel, you're going to see quite a few new cruise ships, and I'm excited to be going on Star of the Seas very soon, so look for content from that ship. Brilliant Lady will be coming out from Virgin Voyages. I'll be sailing on her. I have a very exciting cruise in the fall, and I'll tell you more about that when we get closer to it. But a lot of really cool things that I'm really excited about, a lot of cool cruises. And then also a complete redesign of my website is forthcoming, ZachTheTravelingMan.com. If you go over there now, you're probably going to see the old design. But I've been working really hard in the background to get that updated, and that's going to give you a lot more information. All of my cruise reviews are going to be there. All of the ones you've seen here in my steps process will be there. Also articles about travel. You can see what I think about certain things within travel. It's just a lot of information, a lot more than what you're going to get here on YouTube. So I encourage you to visit both now, but certainly in the future when that refresh is done, ZachTheTravelingMan.com. So now we're getting into more cruise related questions that people ask me. The first one being, how do you stay fit while you travel so much? And I attribute that to lots and lots of walking. I love to walk while at sea. That's why you hear me in my reviews say, oh, they had an outdoor promenade deck and you can walk all the way around it, because I love to go out there and walk, especially just to see the ocean. I like on a sea day just to do my laps, to do my walks. I also try to take the stairs as much as I can, not to take the elevators or be in the elevators a whole lot. I've also tried to be more aware of what I'm eating and putting into my body this year, how much I'm eating. And I always encourage people, try out all the food, try out the snacks and the cookies and the cakes and all that. But I travel quite a bit. I average about 7 or 8 cruises a year to create the content that I show here on my channel. And so if I just go buck wild every time I go on a cruise, I want to be as big as this ship by the time the year's over. So got to make healthy choices when I cruise. The next question is, will you be doing a packing video? I'm amazed at how much you can fit in a carry-on. And yes, actually that's coming very, very soon. That's one of the next videos that'll be coming out on the channel. And yes, you heard right. I do travel the world with just a backpack and a carry-on bag. And I'm going to tell you more about that in the aforementioned video, so be on the lookout for that. But it just makes life easier for me being a solo traveler. I don't like to turn over my bags to the airlines. You never know. You can hear the horror stories, right? People end up in Europe, they've flown across the ocean or somewhere else, and they don't have their bags for 3 days. I don't want to be that person. So I like to carry on in my backpack and have everything stored with me at my seat on the plane. It's always in my sight. So I'll tell you more about that in that packing video that's coming soon. The next question is, what do you dislike about cruising? And I'll say my biggest pet peeve about cruising is when people are rude to or mistreat the crew. I cannot stand that. And I have, been in situations before or overheard conversations before that people have had with the crew or seen how they've treated them. And nothing makes me more furious than when I hear people being mean. I can't stand entitlement in any way. And just because you're on a vacation does not make you entitled to treat other people poorly. So, that's the thing. I mean, just seeing how people can act sometimes and treat other people on a cruise because they feel entitled because they're on vacation. That's not nice, folks. Don't do that. Who is one person you've met on a cruise that you miss? Well, I've actually made so many friends while cruising. It's actually one of the best parts to me. I love meeting new people, and certainly this YouTube channel has helped because more and more people come up to me every time I cruise and say, hey, we watch your videos. And I always encourage you, please do that. Like, if you see me on a ship, don't think you're disturbing me or bothering me. Come up and say hello. You all see me every week, but I never get to see you. So it's nice to see you in person. So come up and say hello and let's talk when you see me on a cruise. But I made so many friends that way. Actually, some of my best friends are people that I met on a cruise, and I still cruise with those people when I'm not sailing solo. Next question is, what is your dream cruise and dream non-cruise vacation? Well, my dream cruise, without a doubt, is an Antarctica expedition cruise. That's something that's on the list that I want to do and I want to feature here on the channel. I'm just not that rich yet. I need to save up my pennies for that because those are pretty expensive. But I definitely want to get to Antarctica. I want to wear all the layers and see all the penguins and all the animals. I'm excited about that happening at some point. My non-cruise vacation would be Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii before and absolutely love it. So to take a land-based vacation, I would pick Hawaii. Cruise loyalty program thoughts. That's the question. And I know a lot of people are curious about this now and probably asking me this because of Carnival Cruise Line and their recent changes to their loyalty program. They just did away with their loyalty program. And all the people who have been accumulating and saving up their days at sea for many, many years have now lost that with Carnival. They've actually kind of made it more like an airline loyalty program. I fly a lot with United Airlines and have accumulated a status with them, but it's hard to maintain that status year after year. So this is going to be a real grind for people. This is going to be annoying. Basically, there's not a lot of loyalty left in it. I'll say that. Like, you're being loyal to the cruise line, but they're not being loyal to you. And a loyalty program has to work both ways, and I don't see that happening with what Carnival's putting out there. However, unfortunately, I do foresee a lot more cutbacks across many other cruise lines in the future. I think we're going to see this being rolled out. Carnival is out there at the forefront with it, but I think other cruise lines are probably now going to be changing their programs and making them a little bit more restrictive, a lot more like what Carnival's doing. Loyalty is just meaning less and less these days, which is actually quite disconcerting following the pandemic shutdown because so many of us loyal cruisers were keeping those cruise lines in business. And now it seems like they've completely, now that they're in the business of making that money again and really filling those coffers, now they're kind of turning their backs on their loyal cruisers. And that's unfortunate. And I see that across a couple of different cruise lines right now. Next question is, how long have you been cruising for? I have been cruising for 25 years now. I took my first cruise back in 2000, as I mentioned earlier, on the Carnival Tropical. Your favorite cruise that you have ever been on? Well, I've been so fortunate to sail to some of the most incredible places all around the globe, but there are some cruises that stick out in my mind and some cruises that I just think about from time to time. The biggest one being, I think, the Norwegian Prima cruise that I took in 2024, the summer of 2024, from Reykjavik, Iceland to Southampton in the UK. That's just one I cannot stop thinking about. That cruise was just amazing. It was my introduction to the Prima series of ships with Norwegian. It opened my eyes to how beautiful Iceland is. It took me back to Norway. I got to go to Amsterdam. I got to go to Belgium. I loved that cruise, and I'm just obsessed with it. I know that Norwegian sells that every year. I'm not sure what ship they're doing it on this year and in future years, but go on that itinerary, y'all. That is absolutely amazing. Some other places I've sailed to that really just, I can't believe I've been to and sailed to, places like Japan, Australia, Iceland, Norway, and Israel. All were highlights when I got to visit them on a cruise. It's really amazing all the places that you can visit on a cruise ship, huh? Next question is, your top 5 vacations in 2024 and so far in 2025, and what is your new favorite ship? Well, my recent trip on Norwegian Spirit is up there. That was 10 days in Japan and South Korea. Japan is my favorite place in the world. So, of course, that was great. I also love Norwegian Cruise Line. The Norwegian Spirit was a beautiful ship to sail around Japan and South Korea on. I just talked about that Norwegian Prima cruise that I really loved. That's up there. Also, the Utopia of the Seas, I went on her in March of this year, and I was really wowed the entire time to sail her. And I am really excited to sail Star of the Seas when she comes out here in a few weeks, actually. And then my most recent video was actually a ranking of my top favorite cruise ships. So make sure you go back and check that video out, and I'll tell you what my favorite cruise ship is on that. When and what is the next bucket list trip? Well, that is a great question because I've just booked something truly amazing, you guys, for early next year. And I have been so excited about it, thinking about it. The more I think about it and the things I'm going to get to do on this cruise, just the more excited I get. Like, it's going to be probably the coolest trip I think that I've been on yet. This trip, or this cruise I should say, is going to take me to India. It's going to take me to Sri Lanka, to Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. I'm going to get to see elephants in the wild. I love elephants. Elephants are my favorite animal. I'm also super excited and cannot wait to share it with you because I know it's going to be the trip of a lifetime. And I say that now with a lot of the trips I go on because that's what I'm trying to take more of. That's my goal the next few years, is to take more trips of a lifetime. Go to places that I've always wanted to go to and share it with you here on YouTube. Next question is, do you take trips other than cruising? Well, sometimes I'll take a quick weekend trip here or there to visit family. I don't live in the vicinity of my family, so I've got to travel to see them on weekends sometimes. I recently went to Nashville for a weekend to see Dolly Parton's brand new musical. It was actually the world premiere of that musical and had such a great time. So if there's something cool like that going on, something I really want to see or experience or just to visit family, I'll take maybe a weekend trip. I also love to go to Dollywood. I mentioned I grew up in East Tennessee, but I devote most of my trip time to creating content for my channel. So usually when I'm going on a vacation, I'm going on a cruise, I'm going to create content for the channel, I'm going to go make something that I can present to you here. I'm hustling on my vacation time because I love my YouTube channel. I love that I have this platform. I love that people trust me, my reviews, they listen to what I say. And I take that very seriously, and I'm very proud of that. So I use up all of my trip time, literally, to create content for the channel. So I guess the short answer of that is no, I don't take trips, big trips, other than what I do here on YouTube. Next up is, have you watched the Poop Cruise documentary on Netflix? Thoughts? Oh, yes. This has been wild to see the internet's reaction to this Poop Cruise documentary. I actually was very interested and followed this story while it was happening back in 2013 or whatever year that was. That was just a crazy experience. It was unfortunate for the guests and certainly very unfortunate for the crew who was on board. I hated seeing in that documentary some of the conditions that they had to live through. And while I will say it's easy to blame Carnival for what happened, not talking about how they handled it, just what happened, there being a fire in the engine room, kind of a freak accident. I would say that most cruise ships would have had similar issues if they had a fire in their engine room. Back in that day, there were just not a lot of generators, backup generators on cruise ships. It just wasn't happening. This was a learning experience for the entire cruise industry. So it's really easy to say, oh, of course it was a Carnival ship that broke down. It could have happened to any ship. There were just not a lot of backup generators at that time. There are now, thankfully. I don't think that we would see something like this happen. I hope not. Fingers crossed. Today. But my big takeaway from this all was don't sell on Carnival Sunrise, because folks, if you don't know, let me enlighten you. The Carnival Sunrise is the Carnival Triumph. It is the poop cruise ship, the poop ship, whatever you want to call it. They, of course, did a major overhaul of that ship, spent tons of money on it. They'd actually just done this with the Carnival Destiny years before, made her the Carnival Sunshine, and so, of course, they couldn't wait to do this to Triumph, to just get that name out of here, right? So Carnival Sunrise is Carnival Triumph. So if you don't want to be on the poop cruise ship, don't go on Carnival Sunrise. Next question is, what is the best place in the world? Somewhere that gave you a feeling you've never felt. This one is easy for me. Japan. Hands down, I could live there. I want to live there. I love the people there. I love the culture there. I love everything about it. The city of Tokyo is just so electric. I'm just low-key obsessed at this point. I love Japan. Your go-to cruise just because. Well, I love cruising in the Mediterranean. It's so perfect for the summer and early fall. Favorite cruise line and why? Well, this might surprise you or maybe not from what you've seen in my content recently, but move over Celebrity Cruises, because maybe a year ago, 6 months ago, I would tell you that my favorite cruise line was Celebrity Cruises, but Celebrity has changed a lot and I'm not as in love with them, infatuated with them as I used to be. And Norwegian Cruise Line has actually stolen the crown at this point. They do solo cruisers better than any other cruise line. So they've won me over through that. It's such a great value for solo cruisers. All right, now we're getting down to the good stuff. We're going to get a bit more specific about me now, more about Zach the Traveling Man. So the first question is, where are you based out of? And I'll say that I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I love where I live. Have good access to a lot of great airports here in this area, which is great for the traveling business, of course. And actually, some of the very first videos that I ever featured on my channel, back when I was Adventures in Coriolis, featured some of the monuments and museums in DC. So maybe if you're planning a trip to DC in the future, go back and watch some of those videos. And I mean, I can't promise that I'm going to be anything spectacular in those. I was learning, so be kind. But yeah, some of my first videos were filmed right here in the DC area. Next question is, where in the US are you from? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm originally from East Tennessee, and I grew up visiting places like Nashville, Atlanta, the Smoky Mountains, and imagine being a kid from rural East Tennessee, just like farmlands and stuff there in the Tennessee Valley, getting to go to like Atlanta and Nashville, like these really big cities. Every time we would drive through Atlanta, I would just be like, whoa, this is crazy, you know? So it really impressed on me the notion of adventure at such a young age. And I think that that's really what has made such a difference. It's really what made me want to travel the world. And I certainly always think about home. No matter where I'm at in the world, I think about, you know, growing up in East Tennessee. And I just think about how far I've traveled from it. And I'll look at the map and see how many miles is it back to East Tennessee, because I still can't believe all the places that I've seen. I just still can't believe this is all real, that like we can just get on a plane and go anywhere on the world. In fact, when I went to Australia a couple of years ago and sailed on Celebrity Edge, I was just about the furthest you could be from home, and it was just so surreal to me. Next up is, do you speak other languages? Well, not fluently. I can speak just a bit of Spanish. Spanish was the language of choice, in school when you had to choose a foreign language. I always chose to try again at Spanish, but not conversationally. I do try a little bit when I'm, cruising in Mexico or a Spanish-speaking country. I do try a little bit to really get my Spanish in there, but I can't speak it conversationally, so don't try. I don't even speak English that well, to be honest. But I do try to learn a little bit of the local language when I travel internationally, just to, say hello and thank you and things like that. And now for some of the most common questions that I received. The first one being, why do you primarily travel solo? Other questions related to this were, do you always travel solo? Do you travel solo or with someone? Well, I've been on about 30 solo cruises now, and I primarily do this to create content and also to go whenever I want, because cruising solo gives you all sorts of flexibilities and freedoms. So I actually really enjoy sailing solo. I enjoy bringing people with me, of course, but if I'm going to have to work and do work, then let me go by myself. It also makes me feel less pressure, because if I'm going to be sailing with other people, I'm going to make sure they're having a good time, that I'm there, that I'm present in the conversations that they're having. So if I'm there to film content, I feel like I'm taken away from the people that I'm with, so it's kind of one or the other with me. If I'm going to sail with people, I'm going to probably not film as much. And if I really want to create content, then I'm going to go solo. And I don't have to cruise solo. I just choose to, but I do really enjoy it. Next up is, are you a full-time content creator? And no, I am not. I actually have a full-time career, a career that I've dedicated my life to. It's the career that I have is one that I wanted ever since I was a little kid, and I'm very fortunate to have had such a long career so far in what I do. Creating cruise content is just a hobby of mine, and it does keep me extremely busy. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I devote 100% of my vacation time, my paid vacation time, my PTO, my paid time off, to this channel. I will work all day at my job. Some days, long days, I'll come home and film a video or edit a video or post a video to keep the YouTube machine going, to keep the content cranked out, to do the YouTube, to do the Facebook. I try to do at least a video a week here on YouTube on average. Some weeks I have to just take a break. And that's why you might see me at times go 2 or 3 weeks without posting a video. I just need a break, because it is a lot. It's very demanding. It's like I work 2 jobs really, because YouTube in and of itself, if you want to keep it going, if you want to post like you should, and really, if you want to be good at YouTube, you should post, weekly or whatever your schedule is. You should maintain that schedule as much as you can, because you're fighting against the notorious YouTube algorithm. So I try to post as much as I can. I try to be on Instagram. I try to answer every message that I get. I'm not so good on Facebook, so if you send me messages on Facebook and I don't respond immediately, just know that. But I do work a full-time job. I'm really busy. It's really stressful. Please watch my videos. But I do love what I do here, and it is a fun hobby, but it is just a side hobby. Next up is a similar question, which is what you do when you're not traveling. And some other questions I got that were very close to this is what you do for a living that gives you the flexibility to travel. What is your day job? Someone actually said, what is your day job? Your videos look very professional. And to that I say, thank you so much. As I said earlier, I do put a lot of work into them. I want them to look very professional. So I'm glad it comes across that way. But I work in a profession that I absolutely love. And I'm grateful that I get to do what I've dreamed of doing since I was a very little kid. I'm not going to get into the specifics of my career in such a public way. But I will say that I have 2 degrees in atmospheric sciences or meteorology, but I don't work on TV. I'll say that. But meteorology has always been my passion. I wanted to be a meteorologist. Since I was a child, I was terrified of the storms growing up in East Tennessee. In the summer, we would have daily storms in the afternoon. A lot of you know what I'm talking about. It'd get very hot and humid, and then storms would just go popping everywhere. Sometimes they'd be very severe, and they would scare me. Through that fear and that anxiety, I actually taught myself about the weather and learned that I love the weather. So maybe you've not noticed it before, but in a lot of my videos, I really can expound on the weather and what's going on. So that's why. I do have 2 degrees, a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in meteorology. Next question is, what types of jobs did you do before cruising? Well, some of my very first jobs were in restaurants in the town that I grew up in back in East Tennessee. And because of this, I actually love to cook. That's something about me you may not know. And I've actually often considered a second channel for myself. I thought maybe I could do like a cooking channel, because I'm going to tell you something else about doing a travel YouTube channel. It is expensive, y'all. Like, it's an investment because you have to pay for the trips, you have to pay for the equipment, you have to, feel like you have to travel more and cruise more to create more content. It's a huge investment to do cruise content creating, to do travel content creating. But I've often thought, like, if I could do a cooking channel, I could do that at home. And other than the ingredients, there's very little investment in that. But I thought maybe I'll do like Zach the Cooking Man sometime. Would y'all subscribe to Zach the Cooking Man and see me cooking at home? Be a completely different YouTube channel, but honestly, who has the time for that? Like I said, I'm very busy with the work that I do, my profession, my career, and then also the Zach the Traveling Man. And this is what I love, the travel, the cruising, the community I built here. So this is certainly always going to get priority over any other YouTube channel, but that's not happening anytime soon, if ever. Next up is, how do you have enough vacation time to travel so often? Well, I have very good benefits with my job. I've been at my job for many, many, many years now. And because of that, I get very good benefits and vacation time off. I also, though, here's a trick. I'm going to hopefully teach you something. I maximize Fridays off, paid holidays, etc. Anytime there's a week I know I'm going to have one of those days off that's just included in my work schedule, I'm going to go look and see what cruises are available or what trips I might be able to go on to create content, because that's a free vacation day. And sometimes it might be multiple, depending on what time of year, it could be multiple days off there that I can use. It's built into my work schedule naturally, where I'm not having to take PTO or vacation time. So that's the trick. You have to look for those opportunities where you can take days off that are already built into your work schedule. And that's it. That's the questions that I received. 50,000 subscribers, y'all. I'm in disbelief, but I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching the videos, for commenting, for liking, for all the interactions with my content over on Instagram and Facebook. That's what counts. That, like I said, the algorithm, that's what we're trying to feed here, the YouTube algorithm machine that promotes our videos to even more people who might have never seen us before. So not just me, but any of your favorite travel content creators or any of your favorite content creators in general. If you want to see them do well and succeed, make sure that you interact with their content. Make sure you share it. Make sure you watch the videos all the way through. But thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me do what I do, what I enjoy doing, my side hobby that I love so much. Thank you so much. And here's to the next 50,000. Maybe we'll do another one of these very soon when we get to 100,000. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've made it through and you've not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go down below, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next adventure. And we have many, many more to come on our journey to 100,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much.